JDL USA presents Rabbi Nachum Shifren, public speaker, author, and good friend of the late Rabbi Meir Kahana.
Well, good evening once again. This Dvar Torah is dedicated to all those grieving parents, family members that have cried bitter tears for years and nobody hears them, basically for political reasons and political correctness, etc. So I dedicate this to all those parents who have lost loved ones to Arab terror and murder, and of course, otherwise. You know, it's interesting. Life is interesting. People are fascinating in more than one way. But there's things that we prefer to just, delete. We don't want to talk about it. Everybody's got their taboos that they don't want to discuss, especially, including rabbis. Rabbi Kahana once, his blood should be avenged, once mentioned that you can judge a rabbi and a shul by two ways. A, how thick the carpet is in the rabbi's office, and B, how much cushion the chairs seem to have, the cushiony chairs that the people sit around in these board meetings. Anytime you go into an office where it's just wooden chairs and a table that looks like it was half broken, you know you're going to be getting the truth, usually. So we're in complete wonderment, many of us that have been faithful supporters of the Jewish idea, whether it be a week ago or whether it be 50 years ago. We're in always wonderment about the Jewish state response to Jewish suffering. Keep in mind that Menachem Begin, many years ago, Hashem Yikon Damo as well, the Jewish state tried to kill him on a ship called the Altalena that was bringing desperately needed arms to the Haganah in, I believe it was in Tel Aviv. And he was the opposition to the left in Israel at that time. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Try to kill your opponent. We stated over and over again, never again, after 2,000 years of murder, rape, whether it be through the Inquisitions, whether through the Cossacks, through the Crusades, we stated never again. And we see it over and over and over again and again. Rabbi Kahana once noted that you've got more of a chance to be stabbed on a bus in Tel Aviv than probably somewhere in some dark jungle somewhere. In other words, he stated that what kind of a response should we expect from the Arab population in Israel? There's 2 million Arabs in Israel. And every morning when we say Hatikva, the words, the Jewish soul yearns. And Rabbi Kahana was wont to say, I wonder how much the Arabs appreciated hearing how much a Jewish soul yearns in the Hatikva. So our Parsha this last week, we have some unfinished business here. We're going backwards a little bit. In order to go forwards, we have to go back a step. One of the things that the rabbis don't want to talk about and never do, it's very uncomfortable for them usually, is the drama that took place in the city of Shem, which the Arabs call Nablus, which of course the left-wing press likes to use, Nablus. Nobody knows what Shem is. Shem, of course, is one of the holy cities in which the legacy of the Jewish people and their birthright to the land of Israel was claimed, that along with Hebron and with Jerusalem, 3 holy cities. It's known, as we talked about in the parsha last week, the Jewish people came into the land. Shem was the first place where Jacob brought his family. And one day, Dinah, his daughter, was wandering around, and then the son of the head of Shem saw her, raped her, fell in love with her, ostensibly, and told Yaakov, "Look, I want to marry your daughter." Well, that wasn't going to happen for a couple of reasons. 2 of the reasons were Levi and Shimon, both of whom recoiled when they found out the brutal details of what had happened. And as is known, they through trickery, they got all the people, all the boys, all the men in Shem to have a bris milah, which would render them pretty helpless if they needed to defend themselves. And on the 3rd day, which they say typically a circumcision is hurting at its most, on the 3rd day, 2 people, Shimon and Levy, slaughtered the entire male population of Shechem, 20 to 30,000, they say. And they took all the booty, sheep, goats, whatever was there, and they took it with them. So the average rabbi would recoil about such an act, especially by a Jew. What about the poor girl that was raped and nobody said anything about it? According to the Noahite laws, of course, there's the 7 Noahite laws. Everybody knows that thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, blah, blah, blah. Those laws were put in effect after the Great Flood, so there would be no more wickedness or perversion in the world. And one of the laws said that there's supposed to be an establishment of courts, a legal system of justice, and anybody that goes against those laws should be tried. They don't just get a pass on these things. Well, nobody did that. And the way it works is it's called collective punishment. If the entire village is remiss on this, then everybody gets the same fate. And that's exactly what happened. This is one thing that the rabbis do not talk about, even the Orthodox rabbis. Why? You can only imagine why. One thing that Rabbi Kahana once said, that all this debate back and forth and the pedantic way that Jewish scholars and Jewish religious scholars go back and forth about, well, what they did was not right and this and that. And the proof is Jacob was upset about, well, he was upset about it, but not because of that. He's upset because he thought the entire Canaanite nations would gang up on him, they thinking that the moment for the takeover of the land by the Jews was at hand, when it wasn't, actually, theoretically. Actually, in fact. But that was the reason he was worried about. But a lot of people will, of course, go to great means, to lengths, I should say, to try to prove that what they did was wrong. Rabbi Kahana would say that, not everything in the world has to be so complicated or obtuse. Sometimes simple solutions are solutions. They can be actually good. One of the things we saw when Joshua was in Jericho, if you look at the book of Joshua, there's a very, very famous story there, which to me is one of the most amazing stories of the entire Bible. There was a harlot by the name of Rachav. And when the Jews came to Jericho, they wanted to spy out the land, and they were hiding from the local population that wanted to kill them. One of the things that Rachav said to them is, you shouldn't have to worry. The entire country is in trepidation because of what happened to your God in the exodus from Egypt. They all know, meaning they, the nations, she being one of them, a member of one of them, they all know that your God is a vengeful God, and they're all afraid of you. You have nothing to worry about. Now that's coming from a harlot, a non-Jewish harlot, who spoke the truth. Why? Because deterrence is the best offense, the best defense. When people are afraid of you, they don't mess with you. We talked about before in the Crown Heights riots years ago. Rav Kahana used to mention that in the Irish part of Brooklyn, not a stone was overturned. Same with the Italian parts. Only in the Jewish part were there riots and even death, with yeshiva students being pelted with rocks and beaten up and whatnot. Thousand years, enough. Rav Kahana used to say, enough Kaddish, enough saying Kaddish. We're sick of hearing Kaddish. We don't want to know about Kaddish. Why is it okay for Jews to be murdered? They might say, well, look at what's happening in the Middle East now. Really? I recall that the answer to the 1,200 Jews that were murdered, roasted, burned, raped, savaged, was to give diapers and pallet loads of food and rice and everything to the Palestinians, who 85% of whom supported the Hamas murderers. You know, I have a friend that works for the Israel, what's it called? The Israel Air Industries. And they developed a bomb, or a rocket actually, that was the size of your arm, that could be sent into an apartment building. It would stop on a corner, go around the corner, making 180 degrees turn in mid-flight, and blow up the person in the next room without harming the other residents of that dwelling. This is a miracle that the Israeli technology has brought to forth. They, if they wanted to, could hear you and I in this conversation right now, identify where we live, and take steps, measures to do whatever they want to us. If they wanted to do that, they could. They have the technology to do that. So why, you may ask, can the lowest scum of the earth ride their bicycles across a border, use kites, use all kinds of, ride across with 50-year-old Toyota trucks, and nobody knows about it? How could that be? That's a question that we should have found the answer to before we started the war, so we could prosecute those people that are responsible for Jewish death. Do you notice that didn't happen? We're still waiting for a commission. Don't hold your breath. Rav Kahana once said, what will we say to the bereaved mothers and fathers for the last 50 years of suffering of their sons and daughters being raped, being murdered, being stabbed in the back, blown up on buses, blown up at pizza parlors, walking through the Jewish quarter with knives in their back? What will we say then when we're forced to kick out every single Arab in Israel? You answer that question for yourself. I'm just saying what Rabbi Kahana said. There's others that are saying it, but who knows where they are and when they're doing it. So going back to last week's Parsha, that was an answer of Jewish strength and Jewish pride. Hakizona chotenu. Shall we treat our younger sister as a whore to be raped? That was the question that Shimon and Levy asked Jacob, who was aghast at what they did in Shechem. Again, not for the reasons that you may think. A little girl wasn't murdered. She wasn't, violated anyway, perhaps slightly, but she was alive, healthy. That was the answer for Jewish pride and Jewish resistance. And we have to compare what happened then, which, as they say, Chazal tell us, Maseh Avot Siman Labanim, the acts of our fathers are signs for the sons. All we know is what happened then and what our response is now to similar situations. Hanukkah is coming up the next few days. Again, reminds us of the how similar it was to the American Revolution. They say that a third of the Americans were for the Brits, a third didn't care, just wanted to have beer and kick back, and another third were for action. Same thing here in Israel. People are crying, saying Kaddish, weeping, wailing, throwing their hands up in the air. In the meantime, there's still people being murdered, knives in the back, buses blowing up. In Judea and Samaria, looks like another Gaza. Why? Rav Kahana was asked once, you want to remove the Arabs from Israel, but certainly there's good Arabs. Rav Kahana said, everybody's going in a bus. They'll be removed from the country, and the good Arabs can sit in the front of the bus. It's not so simple as I'm saying. There are certain things that mitigate in these issues, but we have to realize this is a matter of survival. The people of the quote unquote territories, Judea and Samaria, they support Gazans. They support Hamas. They support overturning Israel. It's just how it is. And so, this having been said, the same thing with Hanukkah. There was just a band of brothers. Why brothers? Why couldn't have been the entire Jewish nation? No. Many Jews loved the Hellenists. They loved the Greeks. They loved playing javelin, spears, discus throwing. They liked looking like the Greeks. They adored the Greeks. They thought the Greeks were amazing people. And the Greeks said, this is wonderful. We can get along great. Just don't learn your Torah and say that it was given by God. As long as you don't do that, we'll be friends. And lo and behold, a lot of people chose to be friends with the Greeks. What's changed? You tell me. So on that word, I will say, Hanukkah is a time of hope, a time of light, of radiance. Torah or, the light of Torah, permeating our home. And this is something that we're looking forward to. With the help of God, we'll be able to take what's happened in the past and make sure the past is never repeated. God bless everybody. Shabbat Shalom and Chanukah Sameach.
Jewish authority. Jewish authority. Jewish authority. Jewish authority. Jewish authority. Jewish authority. Jewish authority.